Afghanistan has fallen to Islamist extremists once again. The Taliban have taken control over Kabul, and whatever little cultural heritage that was left in the war-torn country is now being destroyed. Hindus and Sikhs have been forced to flee Afghanistan. In the 1970s, there were at least 700,000 Sikhs and Hindus in Afghanistan. However, by the beginning of the 21st century, they had been reduced to a few hundred. Where did these Indic minorities vanish? Today, the few remaining Dharmic minorities of Afghanistan have been forced to flee their homeland. Bharatiya culture has been expelled out of Afghanistan. Our Dharmic space is shrinking right before our eyes. But Afghanistan was not always so torn. Afghanistan was peaceful and it flourished when it was under Hindu rule. Hi and welcome. You're watching TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Piyush, and in this video I will tell you about the fascinating history of Afghanistan. So let's begin. Afghanistan is usually considered in portrayals of Akhand Bharat, and the same is not without cause. Hindu culture is ingrained in the land of Afghanistan. The Indian subcontinent is fragranced with Sanatan Dharma, which is why Islamic marauders hate the region to the very core of their radicalized hearts. To them, the Hindu subcontinent is not just another piece of land they need to conquer. For them, it has been the conquest of the most thriving and rich civilization, which has been the goal and still is. Afghanistan, before the advent of medieval savages bearing the flag of Islamic Caliphate, was a predominantly Hindu and Buddhist land. During the 7th century, the Rashidun Caliphate Arabs entered the territory that is now Afghanistan after defeating the Sinayan Persians in Nihawand. Thus, the seed of cultural genocide of Hindus was sown in Afghanistan. The name Afghanistan comes from Upaganistan, which in Sanskrit roughly translates to the place inhabited by allied tribes. This was the place from where Gandhari of Mahabharata belonged. Gandhar, whose king was once the conspiring Shakuni, is known as Kandhar today, and it is under the Taliban's control. Interestingly, the Pakhtuns, or Pashtuns as they are known now, were descendants of the Pakhtun tribes mentioned in the Vedic literature. Of course, Raja Dahir Singh of Sindh ruled over the parts of Afghanistan. He was the last Hindu ruler of Sindh, subsequent to whose death the region was conquered by a marauder named Muhammad bin Qasim. However, the Hindu history of Afghanistan is so much more fragrant than what is normally told. The most prominent Hindu ruler over Afghanistan, of course, emerged under the Hindu Shahis or Kabul Shahis, approximately 850 to 1026 CE. Sanatan Dharma flourished in Afghanistan during these years. The Hindu Shahis of Afghanistan were Kshatriyas, but interestingly, the kingdom was established by a Brahmin minister named Kallar. Afghanistan was essentially, prior to the advent of Islam, the land of tribes. The Indo-Aryan inhabitants of the regions, including Pashai and Nuristanis, were known to be followers of Hinduism. Hinduism and Buddhism flourished in Afghanistan and the neighboring region under the Kushan and Kidara Empire of the 4th and 5th century as well. During their rule, a number of Shiva temples were not only built in Afghanistan, but also other Western and Central Asian regions too. Modern-day Uzbekistan and Tajikistan formed part of the Afghan kingdom in those times. After the Kidarites, Afghanistan fell to the Alkan Huns, a nomadic people best known for establishing states in Central Asia and South Asia during the 4th and 6th century CE, and to whom the fall of classical India under the Gupta Empire is often attributed to. The Alkan Huns were said to have taken over the land ruled by the Kedarites in 370 CE. Modern-day Afghanistan Kandhar, known anciently as Gandhar, was taken over by the Hindu ruler king Kingila, who was in fact the most notable Alkan ruler. Towards the end of 5th century, the Hindu eunuchs even took over Sindh. thus completing their rule over the modern day Afghanistan. The Elkon Huns were primarily practitioners of Hinduism and Buddhism, and King Kingila's coins even bore the imprint of Lord Shiva. The Elkon Huns ruled over Afghanistan roughly from 666 to 843 CE. From 843 to 850 CE, a Brahmin minister ruled the region. The Kalka community of Brahmins had acquired prominence in those times. They were later known as Kalers. It was here that the Brahmin minister Kallar set up the Hindu Shahi kingdom of Afghanistan. Several Hindu Shahi rulers helped take Hindu culture to new heights in Afghanistan. Those were Vakadeva, Kamalavarman, Bhimadeva, Jayapaladeva, Anandapalla, Trilochanapalla, and Bhimapalla. During the reign of Kamalavarman, the Safavid rule weakened precipitously and ultimately Sistan became a part of the Sumanid Empire. The Safavid dynasty was a Sunni Persian dynasty from Sistan that ruled over parts of Greater Iran, with its capital at Zaranj, from 861 to 1003 CE. However, disorder prevailed for quite some time in the region, which the Hindu rulers used to their benefit. The Shahis stepped up activities on their western frontier. The result was the emergence of a Hindu power at Ghazni, supported by the Shahis. While the first attacks for the capture of Ghazni came under the reign of Kamalavarman, the power of region was consolidated during the reign of his successor Bhimadeva. The Shahi state had successfully managed to ward off danger from the strong neighborhood kingdom of Samanids for more than a century. That Muslim kingdom was gradually decaying, but its ambitious Turk officers were acquiring power and setting up personal fiefdoms menacing the Hindu states south of Hindu Kush. Bhimadeva, however, had no male successor. The Shahi kingdom was strong and prosperous, but not easy to govern and protect. So Bhimadeva selected the allied kingdom of Punjab to take over the Shahi kingdom in Afghanistan. Thus followed the reign of Raja Jayapaladeva, who upon his coronation used the additional name suffix Deva from his predecessor's dynasty in addition to the Pala name ending of his own family. Under Jayapaladeva's reign, the Hindu Shahi kingdom was further strengthened since he maintained an aggressive and proactive policy towards the Turks. The Hindu Shahi reign continued till the 10th century. Like any dynasty and empire, with time the power and influence of the Shahi kingdom began to wane, which provided the Mahmud of Ghazni with a perfect opportunity. The Persianate Turkey Ghaznavids finally broke through into India after overpowering the declining Hindu Shahis and Gujaras. On 28 November 1001, Mahmud's murderous army fought and defeated the army of Raja Jayapaladeva at the Battle of Peshawar. Jayapala killed himself and was succeeded by his son Anandapalla. The Shahi kingdom, however, was not able to survive much longer. Hereon, Islam became the dominant region in Afghanistan. The Hindu Shahi dynasty ruled and defended the Hindu culture in Afghanistan for nearly 200 years from invading Turks and Arab barbarians. Hinduism flourished in Afghanistan. Since the decline of the Hindu Shahi dynasty and since Islam took over the region, Afghanistan has never really seen peace and flourishment. Hindu history of Afghanistan is ancient. Hinduism has existed in Afghanistan even before Islam was ever born. Rest assured, the world has not seen the last of Sanatan Dharma in Afghanistan yet.